welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk with you guys about something that is very relevant to me right now and something that I thought you guys might enjoy to hear. And it's basically reflecting on 5 years of marriage that I just celebrated recently with my husband. So in honor of our 5-year anniversary, I thought I would share 5 things that I have learned in my 5 years of marriage. Before I get into what those 5 things are, I just kind of wanted to give 2 kind of disclaimers, I guess. One of them is that I am not a marriage expert. I'm sure you guys are aware of that, but I am by no means an expert on the subject of marriage. Luke and I still fight a lot. I really struggle sometimes with issues as a wife, and I struggle with issues of him as a husband, but I still feel like there's a lot of things that I have learned in my 5 years of marriage that I figured I could share with you. So basically what I'm trying to say is that these are not supposed to be like 5 tips and tricks on how to have a better marriage. More so they are just kind of 5 things that I have personally learned in my marriage journey. The second thing that I kind of want to disclaim is that both Luke and I come from a pretty traditional marriage background. We're both Christian and therefore grew up kind of in the Christian mentality and hold a lot of those beliefs and values very close to our heart. So that might just be a good thing to keep in mind, that they are coming from a Christian background and mentality. So let's get on with the 5 things that I have learned in my marriage. Number 1, everyone is different. This is probably going to be the most no-brainer thing on my list, but I still feel like it's significant enough that it's worth mentioning. Luke and I especially are very different people. And I'm sure you've heard of the idea of love languages and the different 5 love languages. Luke and I have very different love languages. And I guess what this point kind of boils down to is ultimately that in marriage, it's not about treating your spouse how you want to be treated, it's about treating your spouse how they want to be treated. This is something that I have only really started to kind of understand in the last couple of years. It's something that I wish that I had gotten a better grasp of before. But my love language and the way that I want to be treated and the way that I want to be shown love is oftentimes very different than how Luke would like to be shown love. So what I have learned is that it is a good thing for me when I want to show Luke love. I have to go and take the extra effort and the extra work of trying to understand what would Luke like, how would Luke like to be shown love, and it's not necessarily the way that I want to be shown love. For example, my love languages are words of affirmation and gifts. Those are 2 things that I really appreciate. Those are 2 things that really resonate with me when it comes to feeling loved, but they're not at all really what Luke enjoys feeling love with. I should say he does enjoy words of affirmation, but Luke, as with a lot of guys, his love language is physical touch. And those are things, and quality time, those are things that Luke really appreciates, and those are things that I have to keep in mind when I want to show Luke love. Those are things to focus on. So Luke and I were talking about this a lot on the way home, and I asked him, what have you learned in your 5 years of marriage? And Luke said the next 2 things. So these are both from Luke. First being, marriage is hard work. I'll be honest, when Luke first said this, I was kind of taken back and I wasn't really sure how to take it. But then he kind of just went on to say that having and maintaining a successful marriage relationship is a lot of work. It's something it doesn't just happen. It is something that has to be cultivated, and it's something that both Luke and I have had to spend a lot of time and effort into maintaining. Then I asked Luke to give me another thing that he has learned about marriage. And what he said is that marriage is way more fun than dating. And along with that, we both kind of decided that some of the things that go under that umbrella involve safety, the safety of being committed to each other and feeling safe around that person because of that commitment, being able to sleep over with each other and having sleepovers with your best friend, being able to go shopping with each other and kind of buy the things that you have in your life. Those things become extra fun when you get to do it with your life partner. And he said coming home to us, he said coming home to me and Melody and Rhea is the best part of his day, and I absolutely agree. The best part of my day is when Luke comes home and I get to see my daughter run into his arms and say, "Daddy, I missed you, I love you so much." There's not a lot of things greater than that, and I gotta say I've never felt that amount of love and affection like I do now in marriage, and I'm really, really grateful for that. So marriage is definitely a lot of work, but it is also a lot of fun. The 4th thing that I have learned in marriage, and something that I continually need to work on and remind myself of, is that it is generally not wise to speak badly about your spouse. A lot of damage can be done in speaking poorly about your spouse to somebody else. And not that there's never ever a time and a place for having safe conversation with someone that you can trust in order to kind of vent or talk about your struggles with somebody in a safe place. But all too often, it's so easy when you're frustrated with your spouse to do the first thing and just tell anybody about it that will listen. And the only reason why that's dangerous, I think, is because it taints that person's view of your spouse when they might not have felt that way otherwise. And again, I don't want to give the impression that you can never have safe conversations with someone, and that if your spouse is being terrible to you, that you have to just hold it all in. What I have found for myself is that if I'm frustrated with Luke, or if Luke has done something to hurt and upset me, when the first thing I want to do is tell somebody about it, because I want somebody to be aware of how I'm becoming a victim, and that's something that I want to express to somebody, it's best for me, if I can, to try to take a day and decide I'm not going to talk about it with anybody, and I'm just going to focus on it with myself. I find that oftentimes by the time I could have told somebody about it, the frustrations that I'm feeling are greatly subdued. And by waiting, now I have made sure that somebody else doesn't have a tainted view of my husband when in the heat of the moment I was so mad and I was so frustrated with him. I just think that it's really important to be very careful and tread very lightly when speaking poorly about your spouse to somebody, because a lot of damage can be done in that way. I've told Luke this before. If I found out that he was talking poorly about me to somebody, even just casually, I would be very, very hurt by that. I just think that that does a lot of dishonor to our relationship if I was to find that Luke was sharing something about me and changing someone else's perspective of me simply because of what he was saying. It's not giving me a fair chance. It's not giving him a fair chance if I speak poorly of him. And it really doesn't help anything unless it's so bad that I absolutely need to have a safe conversation with somebody about how I'm frustrated in my marriage, and I can ask them, hey, can you pray for me in this? I'm very much struggling and I don't know what to do. Please give me some advice. So I went back and forth on how I wanted to address this last topic and whether I wanted to include it at all. But I think it is so important that it is worth mentioning, and so I'm going to kind of be careful with the verbiage I use because this is a family channel, but I think it's important to note, and it's something that I kind of wish I had known before, but it's that physical intimacy gets better with time, 100%. And I don't just mean that, I mean all of it. I just mean the way I feel with my husband physically is so much better. I feel more safe, I feel more loved, I feel more appreciated, which is ironic because physically I don't look as good as I did when we first got married. I've had 2 kids, I have tons of stretch marks, I've had several abdominal surgeries, I am scarred up all over, I weigh more now than I did when we first got married, but yet our physical intimacy has gotten better. And I think that that's so cool, and I'm excited for it to continue to get better. And I just think that that is really, really amazing, that even though I might not look as great as I once did and physically I'm less confident about how I look, my husband still finds me more beautiful now than he did when we first got married. And I find my husband physically more attractive than when we first got married, because all of the things about who he is as a dad and all of the things that I've been able to appreciate about him that I couldn't when we first got married, attribute to his physical attractiveness to me, which makes intimacy in our marriage that much better. And I just think that is amazing. Hopefully that didn't make you too uncomfortable, but that's pretty much the 5 things that I have really learned in my last 5 years of marriage. I'm so grateful for my spouse. I'm thankful for the person that God has put in my life to be my life partner and to be the father of my children. I absolutely love my husband, and I just really, really appreciate him. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.